So, at various times throughout this semester, we've spent some time looking at the transformations of functions. And since we were now talking about exponential functions that look like so, where independent variable is the exponent, it's probably worth looking at the transformations of these functions. And a lot of them are going to be uh, the same, right? It's just where those constants show up that is going to alter our graph, right? Okay, and we're pretty much just going to focus on uh, two different types or three different types, I suppose, of transformations here. Okay. Remember that when we're transforming a function, we're seeing the addition or multiplication of a constant to either the inside, right? What we call the inside of the function. And when we talked inside before, we said, parentheses or brackets or square root, anything that happened in here was an inside transformation. Well, you're not going to see a whole lot of that. Now, when we talk about inside, we're talking about what's happening up here. Okay. And you're not going to see these parentheses. So the quote unquote inside transformations occur at the exponential level. The outside transformations occur on what we would call the base level. Okay. So let's start with one of these horizontal transformations. If we add or subtract a constant in the exponential level, this is the addition of a number inside the function, right? So this is a horizontal. What did we do whenever we added or subtracted something, right? That was a shift. And because this is in the exponential level, it's a horizontal shift. And just always remember that it's the opposite of what we see up here, right? Okay, so let's keep that in mind. We can also add or subtract a constant on the base level, right? Which we would consider this would be one of those quote outside transformations. Okay, so we see it not with the exponent, but on the base level and on the outside of that. So this would be our vertical shift, okay, which we've talked about before. And again, the vertical shift, if we're adding, we're moving up. If we're subtracting, we're moving down, right? With our horizontal shift, if we're adding, we're moving to the left. If we're subtracting, we're moving to the right, like it's opposites day, if you recall. Okay. Another one that we're going to see a lot of is a negative sign, and that negative sign can show up in one of two places. It can show up in front of our power, or it can show up in the exponential level. If it shows up in front of our power, right, we know that this is outside the exponential level. So this is a vertical reflection, okay, and that would be over the x-axis, right, where we reflect, we flip the graph over vertically. If we see a negative up top, we know that this is a horizontal reflection, okay, and that occurs over the y-axis. So these are the two types that we're going to see most often are shifts, okay, seen as adding or subtracting either inside or outside, and then we have the reflections, okay, with these negative numbers. Now we can still put a constant, in front here. We can still talk about, remember how if we have a power outside the original function, if we put a 4 here, right? Remember that if we're multiplying, that's an instance of a vertical stretch. Okay, so we're still going to see that, just not as much in what we're really focusing on at this point. Okay, and we can still see numbers. We can still horizontally stretch and shrink by multiplying in the exponential level. Okay, same as multiplying by a number here in front. That can still happen. We're just not going to see that as often. I'm not sure we see any of those, to be honest.